Tate is free. Well, I honestly didn't think they were going to let him out before the 6 months, if they were going to let him out at all. But I must say I'm glad they let him out. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not sure if it's because I had heard rumor that the Embassy of America was involved or what the reason was, but they did let him out. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying that the first podcast he's on is going to be there's going to be millions of views. I'm not sure if, while the case continues, which it apparently is, correct me if I'm wrong, leave a comment in the comment section. If I'm wrong about that, he probably isn't going to be able to talk about much. And I wonder, as this case goes on, if it comes up resolved with him being innocent, if he's going to continue speaking out as he has been. As you guys know, his prediction is that he will be eliminated if he continues, because his first one was he would be banned, which he was from social media. They'd try to shut him up. Then he would be jailed. And then if that did not work, then he would be eliminated. Stop and think about it. He's talked about this, and I talk about it a lot, how your words have power. He is basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, will he fulfill the prophecy of being eliminated if he continues to talk? I hope not. But if he really believes that, and I tend to believe it too, if he does continue that may very well happen to him. Now, that would make a martyr of him, of course. And I don't think the powers that be that are trying to shut him up would want that. But then again, if he continues to speak it and believe it, he will bring it to pass. I'm not sure. I think he speaks a message that needs to be heard. A lot of people don't like it because it's gruff, it's direct, it's aggressive or assertive, if you like. And a lot of the people in the world don't like that. I was quoting on something yesterday. They were talking about love. How love is not critical, it's not this, it's not that. And I agree with that. But love is not always touchy-feely and kind. The people that have helped me, well, I won't say the people that have helped me the most, but the people that have made a significant impact on my life have been people like Andrew Tate, who were willing to look me in the eye and tell me what I needed to hear, not just what I wanted to hear. And it hurts. Sometimes we can't see the truth in ourselves. Sometimes someone has to just tell it to us directly and not worry about hurting our feelings. Sometimes people need to love us enough to tell us what we need to hear. And we're not going to like it. It's going to hurt our feelings. It may make us angry. Many times in my life, people have told me things directly that I felt angry afterwards. And I went home cursing them under my breath. But then as time passed, I realized that the reason it made me feel angry was because it was the truth I did not want to accept. Now, if you can get to that point in your life when you realize that when someone annoys you or someone tells you something, well, it's like a friend of mine says, they can't get your goat if you don't have a goat to get. If someone tells you something about you that's not true, and you know it's not true, within the deepest part of yourself, it really doesn't bother you. But if it bothers you, there's a really good chance that there's something in you that you're not accepting about yourself that this person has revealed or brought out into the open. And it seems to me most of our society today is so concerned about how everyone feels that they want to actually change the facts and cater to people's feelings. The world was not built on people's feelings. Now, feelings are important. I'm not at all for anyone suppressing their feelings. but I am for men controlling their feelings. And that's something that Andrew Tate talks a lot about, is about doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like it. Yesterday, I don't know what was going on, but I did not feel like going to work. And I'm self-employed. I did not have to go to work. But of course I went. And even after I started in the morning, we had a small job and we finished that. And while we were there, the person wanted to bid on their other part of their house. I didn't feel like giving that bid, but I gave them the bid. We finished that job and the sun was out. It was a nice day. And I had another job to go to, but I didn't want to go there either. I was not accountable to anyone to go there other than myself. But I went, and I think about what Tate says. Your feelings have nothing to do with it. As a man, you need to do what you need to do, whether you feel like it or not. And it seems today our society has forgotten that. As a man, you have to do what you need to do. Well, let's talk about the Nashville shooting situation. Those 3 men that went in there. Do you think they felt like going in there? I would say they probably felt the opposite. I know they were afraid, but they did what they had to do. Do you think they felt like eliminating the shooter? I'm sure they didn't, maybe at the time because they were afraid, but no one wants to terminate the life of, I have to be careful what I say on YouTube, as you guys know. No one wants to terminate another's life. Well, most people don't, unless they're in their feelings at the moment and then later they regret that. But they did what had to be done. They risked their lives. And let's talk about Tate. He risks his life, his freedom, to tell us what we need to hear. Now, I've heard almost everything he said before. I heard it growing up because in my time, I was born in 1960, Tate is just an example of how most men were back then. Nowadays, men like that are considered to be misogynist, sexist. I've been called a misogynist and a sexist myself. I had a similar situation, as I told you guys before, where I was threatened with jail because they wanted to shut me up, the local government. And I left the country before they could jail me. And I was gone about 6 years. Things cooled down. I was able to come back and fix things and make an under-the-table deal. And I have no problem with the system here now, and they have no problem with me. So, but I did keep my mouth shut in my situation. So, I would like to see Tate to continue to speak as he is, but if he doesn't, I would have to say that may be a wise move if he wants to continue to live. But I don't know what's in Tate. Does he have more he needs to put out there? Is he called to do that? I'm not sure. Only he knows that. My guess would be, and I'm just guessing, I could be wrong, is that they're hoping that maybe now he'll be quiet, that they've taught him a lesson. And if he does be quiet, I don't think it's so much that he would have been taught a lesson, but that he realizes that there are great powers out there. And even though what he's doing, I think, is helpful to men across the world, I don't think anybody should be disappointed if he decides to just focus on his business, his life, and maybe not speak out like he was. Some of you may think that's cowardice. There's a time in life sometimes where you have to realize, just as in war, if you go up against a greater foe and you know you're going to be defeated or eliminated, you have to make concessions. Same as me. If I'm out here walking on the street and I have a confrontation with a man who I know is an MMA fighter and he weighs about 225, I'm more likely to make a concession or find some way to agree with him, or like I say, concede to his agenda, because I know that I cannot overcome this man because he's a power greater than myself. So sometimes a man has to use a little wisdom in life. and realize that he's done all that he can do. Now, I don't know if Tate's going to do that. I don't know how he thinks about the situation. I would much admire him if he did continue to do what he was doing before. But if he stops, I will still admire him and be grateful for what he has done. So whatever choice he decides to make, that's a decision he has to make himself, and none of us should or really could judge him because we're not in his shoes. Stop and think about it. The time he spent locked up, he had no idea whether he was going to get out or whether that was going to be 10, 20, 30 years, like Nelson Mandela. I think he was in there, 27 years? And here's something else people don't think about. Throughout history, people who have spoken up against the powerful elites have been considered criminals, they've been jailed, they've been crucified, they've been tortured, they've been etc., etc. And at the time of their, punishment, let's say it that way, or what is the word I want to use? Degradation. At the time that the elites were trying to put them down, we'll say it that way. I lost my train of thought. Okay, they were considered by many, a lot of the people, to be criminals or fugitives or bad guys. But then, as time passed, history looked upon them as great people. Even Jesus was considered a criminal by the authorities and the elite of the day, and by many of the people. Many of the people, the common people, yelled, "Crucify him, give us Barabbas, the criminal." So, now some people may be offended that I would even compare those two people, but if you were not there in the time of Jesus, you have no idea what was going on. All we know is what's written in history, and that's written by the people who were in charge at the time. So, unless you were there, none of us really know. But we do know he was considered a criminal. Now, we don't know, I better stay away from that. That's in a religion. I don't want to piss anybody off. I'm a firm believer in what Jesus taught. I don't consider myself a religious person, but I believe in a lot of the things that a lot of the major religions teach. Now, I don't like the wars and the things that have gone on in the name of religion, but that's a whole other subject I won't even get into. So now I know Tate has converted to Islam, which is some people that are Christians are against that, and that's where religion becomes an issue for me. But I take what is good, what I think works well, what I think is good for humanity, and then I leave the rest. I'll say it that way. All great men throughout history were men of faith. They believed in something greater than themselves. So I think that probably helped Tate to get through this situation because he believed in something greater than himself. So how can you deny that that is not a good thing, regardless of what religion you are? It's hard to stay away from religion. Back to the topic here. What was the topic? I get off on a rabbit trail. But I'm glad he's free, and we'll just see what he does. I don't know if he's going to have a podcast right away. I would say he's probably not going to until his court thing is settled, if he even does. But many people say, as I said at the beginning of this video, that there's going to be millions of people watching it, and there probably will be, and I will watch it too. I watched the one with Patrick Bet-David, where it was 5 hours long. That was a great interview. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I'm grateful he's out of jail, his brother and him, and I hope things work out. Let's see what happens. If they didn't have enough evidence to keep him in there, then my guess would be they're lacking in evidence to convict him. So let's see what happens. Thanks for joining me. If you'd like to get my help personally, marksinspiration.com is my website, or you can contact me directly, my email, which is in the description. Thanks for joining me, and we're sure to talk to you later. Take care.